For decades now, farmers and ranchers have struggled to control the rising population of destructive and dangerous feral hogs.
I've talked to people that go helicopter hunting, and I go, well, what do you do with all the pigs? And they're like, you leave them there. And I'm like, what?
Farmers across the United States were losing their feral hogs in the strangest way imaginable. At first, many believed the animals had simply wandered off into the wild. But everything changed when investigators began noticing a disturbing pattern. These hogs were not disappearing, they were being hunted. Tracks, strange wounds, and nighttime sightings pointed to something far more dangerous than anyone expected. When authorities finally discovered what was behind the killings, the response shocked everyone. So what was the mysterious killer? And why did officials react in such an unbelievable way? Feral hog crisis. Pigs had truly gone wild across parts of the United States. Researchers eventually confirmed that Texas had the worst feral hog problem in the entire country. These animals were spreading fast, damaging farmland, destroying ecosystems, and multiplying at a frightening rate. But something strange soon began happening in several states. Across Texas, Georgia, and Oklahoma, feral hogs were suddenly disappearing. Not just one or two wandering animals, but entire sounders. Groups of 30 or even 40 hogs would vanish from areas where they had ruled the land for decades. These were counties where farmers and wildlife officers had struggled with hog invasions for years. Yet now, those same places were strangely quiet. Wildlife agencies were baffled. Their traps had not been triggered. Hunters had not reported firing a single shot. Yet the hog numbers were dropping. Something out there was killing one of America's most destructive invasive species, and nobody could identify what it was. Local observers began noticing a disturbing pattern. The mysterious predator seemed to strike 3 to 4 times every week, wiping out an average of 20 to 30 pigs each time. For a species that usually thrives because almost nothing hunts it, that level of loss was astonishing. Experts knew immediately that if such a killer existed, it was powerful enough to change the entire battle against feral hogs. Determined to uncover the truth, a research team launched an investigation in 2014 in Blanco County, Texas. They set up a carefully planned grid of trail cameras across deep hog territory. The cameras were placed in areas where hog activity was extremely high, hoping to capture whatever predator was responsible for the mysterious disappearances. The researchers waited patiently. Exactly 3 weeks later, they returned to collect the footage. What they discovered shocked them so deeply that they made a decision almost no field team ever makes. Within 48 hours, they evacuated the entire monitoring site. The animal they had captured on camera was so unexpected, so rare, and so valuable to science that the researchers could not risk a single human scent contaminating the area and scaring it away. The footage showed a predator that nobody had ever seriously suspected of hunting feral hogs in such a systematic way. Even more astonishing, the animal appeared to be carrying out coordinated attacks with what could only be described as military-like precision. Feral hogs are not native to the United States at all. Every wild pig tearing through American soil today can trace its ancestry back to a human mistake made more than 500 years ago. During the 16th century, Spanish explorers traveling along the Gulf Coast released domestic pigs into the wild. Their plan was simple and practical. By leaving pigs behind, they created a living food supply that future expeditions could rely on. Any ship that returned months or years later would have fresh meat waiting. Then, in the early 20th century, the situation became far worse. Wealthy European hunters decided to import Eurasian wild boars into the United States for sport hunting. These were not soft pink farm animals. Eurasian boars were lean, muscular, and aggressive. They had thick skulls, powerful bodies, and sharp tusks. For thousands of years, they had survived in some of the harshest forests of Europe, evolving into animals built for endurance and survival. Eventually, domestic pigs escaped from farms and crossed paths with these imported wild boars. When the two populations interbred, the result was a dangerous hybrid unlike anything the ecosystem had seen before. According to 2024 estimates from the USDA, There are now about 6.9 million feral hogs roaming freely across the United States. Texas alone holds approximately 2.6 million of those animals. They are now present in 253 out of the state's 254 counties. Only El Paso County has managed to avoid a full invasion so far. They are capable of clearing 40-inch fences in a single leap and can smash through heavy wooden doors as if they were made from fragile balsa wood. Their bodies are built like tanks. The skin alone can be more than 1 inch thick, and beneath it lies a dense layer of fat that can stop or deflect light ammunition. Many experienced hunters in the southern United States repeat the same warning, and that devastation now costs billions of dollars. What is the effect of feral hog hunting? Will the government continue to bear the burden? Let's take a closer look. Impact of feral hogs' destruction. In the city of Irving, the destruction caused by feral hogs has become almost unbelievable. These wild animals have turned peaceful neighborhoods into scenes of chaos. Carefully maintained golf courses that once looked perfect and green have been torn apart overnight. Expensive lawns in quiet residential areas have been dug up and destroyed, as if heavy machines had ripped through them. In some cases, the damage has gone even deeper underground. Feral hogs digging through the soil have accidentally cut important fiber optic cables buried beneath the ground. When those cables were damaged, entire neighborhoods suddenly lost their internet connection, leaving residents confused about why their service had vanished. The problems caused by these animals are not limited to neighborhoods. At a military airfield somewhere in Texas, something unbelievable happened early one morning. Just as pilots were preparing for their scheduled takeoffs, a group of wild hogs suddenly ran onto the runway at dawn. The animals charged straight across the airstrip, forcing pilots to immediately cancel every planned takeoff. The risk of a plane hitting one of these large animals was simply too dangerous. For a short time, actual military operations had to be stopped, not because of mechanical problems or weather, but because of pigs running across the runway. Farmers have suffered some of the worst losses. In Williamson County, one farmer experienced a disaster that happened almost overnight. A group of about 30 hogs, known as a sounder, invaded his cornfield during the night. By the time the sun rose, the animals had completely destroyed 24 acres of corn. The farmer walked outside early that morning expecting to see rows of crops, but instead, he found nothing but churned mud and broken plants. His entire harvest had disappeared in a single night, costing him about $40,000. Similar destruction has happened in Brazos County. There, feral hogs dug so deeply into the soil around a cattle ranch that they weakened the ground beneath underground water pipes. The soil shifted and collapsed, causing the pipes to break. Repairing the damage cost the ranch owner around $60,000. When experts tried to measure the full scale of the problem, the numbers became even more shocking. Researchers from Texas A and M University, working together with the National Wildlife Research Center, estimated that feral hogs cause more than $500 million in damage every year in Texas alone. When you look at the entire United States, the destruction climbs to roughly $3 billion every year, and the situation is getting worse, because the hogs are spreading into more states with every passing season. But the damage is not only about destroyed land and broken property. These animals also create serious health dangers. Feral hogs do not have sweat glands like humans or many other animals. Because of this, they constantly cool themselves by rolling and lying in mud, swamps, and shallow streams. While they wallow in the water, they release waste directly into it and stir up contaminated soil from the bottom. This pollution flows downstream into waterways that many communities depend on. In parts of Alabama, scientists studied streams in areas filled with hogs and compared them with cleaner areas. The results were alarming. The water in hog-infested areas contained bacterial levels 40 times higher than water in places without hogs. These animals are also known to carry more than 30 different diseases. Some of these include parasitic worms and dangerous bacterial infections that can spread not only to livestock, but also to humans. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has reported several cases where hunters became seriously ill after touching infected hog carcasses without wearing protective gloves. One particularly frightening case involved a hunter who caught a severe infection called brucellosis. The illness became so serious that he had to undergo months of powerful antibiotic treatment before doctors could finally bring the infection under control. A similar frightening incident occurred in China in 2023 when a massive wild boar burst into a factory building. The animal attacked a worker so severely that the man needed more than 100 stitches to repair the injuries. At this point, many people naturally ask a simple question. If there are so many of these animals, about 7 million roaming freely across the United States, why don't people simply hunt and eat them? The answer comes down to 3 major problems. The first problem is disease. Studies show that about 1/3 of feral hogs in Texas test positive for brucella, the bacteria that causes brucellosis. Nearly 20% carry another serious disease called pseudorabis. On top of that, the parasite levels in wild hogs can be 15 times higher than those found in farm-raised pigs. The second problem is the law. Federal regulations in the United States do not allow meat to be sold commercially unless it is processed in approved and carefully inspected facilities. Because wild hogs are unpredictable and difficult to handle in large numbers, building a safe commercial supply chain for their meat is extremely difficult. The third problem is something many people do not expect: taste. Unlike farm pigs that eat controlled diets, feral hogs survive by eating almost anything they can find. This includes garbage, dead animals, and rotting food. Because of this diet, their meat is often lean, tough, and carries a strong smell that many people find unpleasant. For most Americans, the flavor alone is enough to make them avoid it completely. So why is there also boar havoc? What is the cause and likely way out? Let's find out. Wild boar crisis solution. In countries like Italy and Germany, wild boar meat is considered a delicious food that many people enjoy. But in the United States, wild hogs are seen very differently. Instead of being a prized meal, they are viewed as a dangerous biological problem that most people do not want anywhere near their dinner table. Because of this, the growing hog crisis seemed almost impossible to solve. There were millions of these animals roaming across the land, yet almost nobody wanted to buy them. They were incredibly smart, making them difficult to trap. They could run fast, which made chasing them nearly impossible. And they were strong and tough, meaning hunters needed a perfectly placed shot to bring one down. A rancher named Mr. Norman, who owned more than 740 acres of land in Texas, tried nearly every method he could think of to stop them. He set up cage traps. He used fermented corn as bait. He even hired teams of trained hunting dogs. But no matter what he tried, the result was always the same. Instead of solving the problem, the hogs simply moved on to a neighboring property. A few days later, they would return, but this time they were even more careful and harder to catch. Mr. Norman once described these traditional methods in a very simple way. He said trying to control wild hogs with those techniques felt like trying to stop a massive flood using nothing more than a small sponge in your hand. No matter how hard you tried, it barely made a difference. Even hunting dogs only provided a short-term solution. Mother hogs are extremely protective of their piglets. When the dogs approached, the mothers would charge without hesitation. Many dogs were injured during these encounters. Ranchers ended up paying expensive veterinary bills while still losing crops to the hogs. Even if hunters managed to catch or kill a few hundred hogs, the remaining animals would quickly reproduce. But why do coyotes hunt piglets? Do they feed on them? Let's take a closer look. Coyotes hunting piglets. At Fort Hood, researchers captured 18 coyotes from areas where feral hogs were very common. They studied what the coyotes had eaten by examining the contents of their stomachs. What they discovered was surprising. Almost 1/3 of the coyotes had pieces of feral hog piglets in their stomachs. This was not old meat they had found lying around. The tissue was fresh and still intact, showing clearly that the piglets had been killed only a few hours earlier. In Georgia, wildlife biologist Sarah Cunningham and her research team made a similar discovery. They tested coyote droppings collected from several counties and found piglet DNA in more than 30% of the samples. When Cunningham saw the results in the lab, she said it made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. The evidence was clear. Coyotes were not just eating dead hogs they found. They were actively hunting and killing piglets. Even more surprising was the scale of it. Coyotes are not very large animals. Most weigh around 30 pounds. Yet these relatively small predators were successfully hunting the young of one of the toughest wild animals in North America. And they were doing it far more often than anyone had expected. Many ecologists believe coyotes started hunting hog piglets because humans had slowly removed many of their normal food sources over the years. As cities expanded and farms spread across the southern United States, many small animals that coyotes once hunted became less common. Their habitats were destroyed or changed by development. At the same time, another animal was exploding in number: feral hogs. These hogs produced huge numbers of piglets every year. For coyotes looking for food, these piglets became the most abundant source of protein available in the landscape. The coyotes did not just adjust a little, they completely changed their hunting strategy. Normally, coyotes hunt mostly at night, but researchers found that many of them had begun attacking hog piglets just before sunrise. This timing was not an accident. Early morning is the exact moment when mother hogs are most tired. They spend the entire night digging in the soil and searching for food. By dawn, they are exhausted. When animals are tired, they react more slowly. Their senses are not as sharp. They are less likely to notice danger approaching. The coyotes seem to understand this weakness. They began striking during that small window of time at dawn when the mother hogs were at their lowest level of alertness. Again and again, in county after county, coyotes were using this exact same strategy with incredible precision. It was a powerful example of nature solving a problem on its own. No government program had designed this plan. No research team had predicted it. Yet the numbers showed it was working. In Texas, the number of piglets being killed by coyotes doubled over the past decade. In parts of Oklahoma and Georgia, the overall feral hog population fell by about 20%. In East Texas, researchers noticed something even more remarkable. More than 30% of piglets disappeared each season, even though no large hunting campaigns were taking place. When scientists mapped these losses, they found a clear pattern. The piglet disappearances matched almost perfectly with areas where coyote populations were highest. What happens to the hog population when you remove the only predator that was keeping the number of piglets under control? Will it increase or decrease the population? Let's take a closer look. Hog population management. The number of feral hogs grew 3 times larger in just 3 years. Yes, 3 times. Many of the piglets that coyotes would normally have caught and eaten, sometimes hundreds or even thousands each season, survived instead. These young pigs grew up, reproduced freely, and soon began producing their own huge litters. Farms that had once started to see less hog damage were suddenly hit harder than ever before. For several years, the hog problem had slowly been getting under control in places where coyotes were common. But once large numbers of coyotes were killed, the situation exploded again. In every area where the coyote population had been wiped out, the hog crisis returned with even greater force. Wildlife management expert Marcus Friedman, who had spent years studying how coyotes affect hog populations, later described what happened in a powerful way. He said, watching those bounty programs was like watching someone drain the protective moat around a castle while enemies were already attacking it. When he presented his data at a regional wildlife conference, the reaction was shocking. The room became completely silent. One state official in the audience reportedly lowered his head into his hands. The truth was painful to hear. The government had been destroying its most effective natural ally and using taxpayer money to do it. Authorities began investing heavily in what people now call the modern trapping revolution. These traps are nothing like the old wooden cages. They are advanced systems equipped with infrared cameras, solar panels, and wireless connections that link directly to phone apps. Smart traps solve this problem. Farmers can capture 30 to 40 hogs at once, leaving no survivors to warn others. Some farmers even take an extra step. They train the hogs first. For about 2 weeks, they leave the trapdoors open and place corn inside every night. The the hogs begin to see the trap as a safe and reliable feeding spot. They relax, bring more members of their group, and slowly lose their natural fear. Then one night, when the entire sounder is comfortably inside, the farmer closes the gate and captures them all at once. These advanced traps can cost as much as $6,000, but farmers often recover that cost in a single night because of the enormous damage hogs normally cause. When trapping alone is not enough, Texas turns to another powerful method: helicopter hunting. Special hunting flights cost around $4,000 and can cover about 400,000 acres in a single operation. Helicopters can reach dense swamps and remote areas where ground teams cannot go. In just one afternoon, a helicopter crew can eliminate more hogs than a team on the ground might remove in an entire month. So what do you think about the United States losing its feral hog? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.